In Boston, research into other aspects of autism continues. This is the Ladders Clinic, where children come for observation by neurologist Margaret Bowman.
You're just up and running. Can you come sit? Ma, book. Can we look at a book? My style basically is to have the children come to a fairly large room with their parents, and I sit and interview the parents while I'm really watching the child play. What I'm really interested in is what do they do with the toys that are in the room? Do they try to engage their parents? Do they try to engage people in the play? Do they come over and show the parents something? Do they like to be held? Do they like to be cuddled? What's their behavior like in that room? And that probably gives me more information than sitting there with a reflex hammer or looking in their eyes. So it's really very simple.
Are you going to look
Here
at
we
the
go.
number?
Bowman believes a clue to the mystery of autism may lie in small but unique differences between normal brains and those of people with autism.
49. Okay, good job.
Since 1983, Bowman and her colleagues have been studying the anatomy of the autistic brain. What they discovered were abnormalities in the cerebellum, which affects motor control. The damage seems to have occurred before birth, before the fetus was 30 weeks old. It's at around this time that the basis for an adult wiring system is being established in a normal human brain. Bowman also found abnormalities in the limbic system, which affects the way we feel, behave, and learn. In fact, how we process sensory information. It also affects our memory. These findings tie in with the theory that two types of memory shape a child's development. Very small children use a habit or rote-type memory to learn. Around 2, another type comes into play. Called representational, it helps children make sense of things around them. They begin to reason and draw conclusions. This higher form of learning is thought to be dependent on the limbic system.
That dovetails very nicely with what parents frequently tell us. Susie was just fine until about 1.5 years, and we moved from Chicago to so-and-so, and suddenly, or in over a period of several days or months or weeks or whatever, her language dropped out, or her behavior became strange, or she became more withdrawn, or what have you. One could at least hypothesize that that has something to do with how this other system sort of falls apart at that level, or at least maybe is it mature enough to take over at that stage.
Before they even start talking, most toddlers understand it's worth their while. But if that basic fact escapes you, your chances of relating to others quickly fade. At UCLA, Marion Sigmund studies social behavior in small children.
Somewhere around about 8 to 10 months of age, normal infants become very interested in the reactions of other people.
Great, here comes. All right.
And by about 13 to 14 months, 15 months maybe, infants begin to look at people a lot when they're enjoying something, as if they want to share this experience. They also look at other people when they're not sure of how to act, so that if something happens that's frightening to them or surprising, they'll look up at another person to see what their reactions are. And this happens to all babies. It's a very common occurrence. And it's so much a part of life that we don't even notice, really, that babies are doing it. But they're really checking to see what we're looking at and how we feel about what we're looking at. So we call this joint attention or shared attention.
Lucy, what do you want to play with?
Sigmund measured joint attention in the responses of 3 different groups of children to various stimuli. Normal babies,
I see. Yeah.
children with Down syndrome, and children with autism.
Very nice.
Children with autism don't pay much attention to the attention patterns of other people. They don't really look at where other people are looking. It doesn't seem to occur to them that other people have points of view that can be shared. And so they seem very isolated in that sense.
In a similar experiment, Sigmund studied the reactions of children to someone else's pain. It takes a normal baby only a few seconds to realize that someone is hurt. Children with Down syndrome respond readily to the emotions of others. But someone else's distress doesn't seem to touch a child with autism. It's as though emotions are a foreign language he can't interpret. Reacting to other people's fear is a basic survival instinct.
They tell us they have feelings. Their parents tell us they have feelings. This is another place in which I think our current research shows that the previous understanding of autism was wrong. Their heart rate responses are no different from those of mentally retarded children who are at the same developmental level. So I think that they very much have feelings, but they have a very hard time explaining these feelings to themselves or expressing them in ways that other people can understand.
Like an anthropologist on Mars, that's how Temple Grandin described to author Oliver Sacks the way she relates to others. Labeled autistic as a child, Temple still finds it hard to read emotions.
Most of the people, when they communicate with each other, when they talk to each other, they get these sort of subconscious little emotional signals back and forth. You see, I don't get that. I have to read the body language like, learning it like school lessons. I had to learn, well, if the person starts going like this, then that means that maybe they're not so open to what you're saying. But I had to learn that by rote. It's sort of almost like being an animal that doesn't have any instincts.
I know how the cow feels, Temple wrote. Her insight placed her at the top of her field as a designer of livestock facilities. A PhD with 2 books to her credit, Temple often feels more at ease with animals.
Autistic emotions are there, but they're simpler. I can be happy, I can be sad, I'll cry at sad movies. But emotions are less complex. I mean, it's hard for me to understand how somebody can love somebody and be jealous at the same time.
Unaffected, without guile, Temple is a high-functioning autistic. Before putting pen to paper, she imagines her intricate designs in minute detail in her head.
If I could snap my fingers and not be autistic, I wouldn't do it. Well, I think in pictures. And thinking in pictures, that's part of me. And it's a great asset to an equipment designer and an animal scientist and animal behaviorist. And I wouldn't want to give up on thinking in pictures.
Early on, her mother refused to abandon her to autism, insisting she be taught intensively and well. Now, Temple's an ambassador of autism and a committed teacher.
My mother wrote in one of her letters that love is helping something to grow. And that's basically what I'd like to do. I mean, I want to help my students to grow. And, whether they're my graduate student or whether they're students in my short course, I want to do something to inspire them to go out and be better people.